Reality has already shifted. If you haven't noticed, you're living in a version that's no longer valid. Elon Musk. Before we begin, here's a small ritual. Write in the comments one word that accurately describes your current state. Sign it, and let's get started. You wake up, but not really. The alarm goes off, you open your eyes, make coffee, scroll, dress, drive, do your job, return, repeat. You speak, but the words feel distant. You laugh, but it echoes hollow. You live, but somewhere deep down, you know you're not fully here, like watching your own life through glass, like the steering wheel's in your hands, but the route's been preset, and no matter how hard you grip it, you can't turn. It's not depression. It's not laziness. It's not failure. It's a silent scream that you were born for more than this. And for years, maybe decades, you tried to silence it. With productivity, with goals, with positive thinking, with therapy, with books, with doing everything you were told would help. But the emptiness stayed, like a hole that nothing could fill, like something inside you was asleep or imprisoned. If that resonates, you're not broken, you're not alone, and you're not imagining it. You're inside a system that's been carefully built to keep people asleep, compliant, controlled, and disconnected from their inner truth. A system that teaches you how to behave, but not how to be, how to follow, but not how to feel, how to perform, but not how to live. That's why the more you try to fix yourself within it, the more disoriented you become, because it was never designed to wake you up. It was designed to keep you functional, productive, obedient. That's the real trauma, not what happened to you, but what was expected of you. The way your soul was trained to adapt to a lie. The way your light had to dim to be accepted. The way your truth had to shrink to fit the mold. And the deeper pain, the guilt you carry for feeling this way, as if your hunger for meaning is a betrayal. But something is shifting. You can feel it. Cracks are forming in the mask. The noise isn't working like it used to. The distractions are fading. The questions are getting louder. You look at the world, and something in you whispers, "This isn't what it seems." And that whisper is not insanity. It's the first signal. It's the beginning. It's the moment before the break. Because the truth is, your numbness is wisdom. Your frustration is insight. Your pain is trying to wake you up. It's the part of you that still knows who you are. The part that remembers before the programming, before the roles, before the rules. And yes, it hurts. But that pain is the crack in the shell. And when the shell breaks, that's when you begin to see. Not everyone will reach that point. Most will choose the comfort of illusion. Most will keep pretending. But if you're still listening, maybe you're not most. Maybe something inside you is ready. Ready to look beyond the screen, beyond the slogans, beyond the scripts you were handed. Maybe you don't want another technique. Maybe you want the truth. Raw, brutal, liberating truth. And that truth is this. The life you've been living isn't yours. It's the echo of what they told you it should be. But the one who sees that is already stepping out of the dream, out of the default, out of the sleep. And the question isn't whether the system will fall. It's already cracking. The question is, will you rise with it or go down clinging to what no longer holds you? Because by the end of this video, you'll understand why your pain is not the enemy. It's the doorway, and why everything that felt like a breakdown was a message from the part of you that refused to die silent. Something has shifted in the world. You can sense it, even if you can't explain it. Like the air feels different, like time moves faster, but nothing truly changes. Like more and more people are walking around with a quiet ache, confused, angry, waking up in a life that no longer fits. And for the first time, they're beginning to question the architecture of their reality. Not just what's happening, but why. And who benefits when they stay blind. This is not some fantasy. This is not a conspiracy theory. This is a crack in the veil, a glitch in the matrix, a moment in human history when consciousness itself is starting to break through generations of programming. The war, the propaganda, the chaos, they're not just global events. They're emotional earthquakes. They're shaking people loose from their trance. People who once believed everything they were told now hesitate. People who never asked questions now demand answers. And in that hesitation, in that doubt, a door opens. That door is what some call the 11th dimension. But it's not a place. It's not science fiction. It's not woo-woo mysticism. It's a level of perception, a shift where people stop being spectators and start becoming witnesses, where they stop living the story written for them and start seeing the hands that wrote it. And the moment you see it, really see it, nothing can ever go back to sleep. The illusion loses power, the mask slips, and the world begins to unravel. Not because it's ending, but because it's beginning to show its truth. This is why things feel so intense now, why people are burning out, breaking down, walking away from careers, families, belief systems. Not because they're weak, but because their inner reality no longer fits the external lie. They're not collapsing, they're shedding. And yes, it looks chaotic, it looks insane, but underneath that collapse is something extraordinary. The birth of self-awareness on a mass scale, a collective remembering. But there's a cost. Awakening doesn't come with applause. It comes with loneliness, isolation, the feeling that you've gone mad, that no one around you understands, that your truth is too much, too raw, too real. And that's why most people go back to sleep, not because they're blind, but because they're terrified to be awake alone. That's why this channel exists. That's why these words matter. Because you're not alone, you're not crazy, and you're not the only one who sees through the game. If you felt even a piece of this, subscribe to this channel. Not for motivation, not for quick fixes, but because this conversation needs to reach the ones who are waking up in silence. And if you're ready to go deeper, join the Telegram. That's where we talk without masks. That's where you'll find others like you. And if something in this clicked, write it in the comments. I'm done running from pain. Let's see how many of us are really out here, no longer willing to live asleep. Because the 11th dimension isn't waiting for someone else to fix the world. It's built one consciousness at a time. And maybe, just maybe, yours is next. They told you that truth is obvious, that right and wrong are simple, that the world is as it seems. But they never told you who benefits when you believe that. From the moment you were born, you were fed a version of reality. A filtered, edited, shrink-wrapped version designed to keep you manageable. School didn't teach you how to think. It taught you how to obey. News didn't show you the world. It showed you fear. And even the self-help industry became another arm of the same machine, whispering that if you still feel broken, it's your fault. You were sold the idea that healing means feeling better, that success means achievement, that a good life means no conflict, no doubt, no pain. And you believed it because everyone else seemed to believe it too. So you tried. You tried to be positive, to be calm, to be spiritual. You read the books, went to therapy, followed the influences. You told yourself to forgive, to surrender, to let go. But deep down, something still ached. A quiet knowing that none of it touched the root. Because here's the truth, they never told you. The system was never broken. It was built this way, designed not to heal you, but to pacify you, to keep you looking outward for answers, to distract you from the one place you were never meant to look, inward. Because once you start seeing your own programming, once you realize how deeply you've been shaped by survival, culture, family, shame, you become unpredictable. And the system doesn't like that. It fears the individual who can't be controlled by guilt. And here's what they really don't want you to know. You didn't fail. You adapted. You survived. You adjusted yourself to fit into a structure that was never meant for your wholeness. That anxiety, that self-doubt, that chronic fatigue, those weren't flaws. They were signals, proof that your body, your psyche, your soul were never okay with the lie. They never truly accepted the mask. They were trying to get your attention. That's why so many of the tools you were given didn't work. Not because they were bad, but because they were shallow. They treated symptoms, not roots. They soothed the surface, while the real wound remained untouched. The part of you that got silenced. The version of you that had to disappear so others could be comfortable. The truth you swallowed because you were afraid of being too much, too angry, too intense. That's the real shadow. And until you turn toward it, nothing changes. This is where most therapy stops. At the threshold. At the place where things get messy, uncomfortable, real. Where you start questioning not just what you do, but who you are when no one's watching. When the lights are off. When the roles fade. That's where real work begins. And no, it's not gentle. It's not pretty. It's not about daily affirmations and soft music. It's about confronting the parts of you that never got to speak. The rage, the grief, the shame, the wild, repressed, silenced force that lives underneath your personality. And the paradox? That's where your power is. That's where you start to remember. Because the deeper you go into what you've denied, the closer you get to what's real. And what's real can't be controlled. You've been taught to fear your own darkness, to suppress it, to deny it, to hide behind politeness, spirituality, productivity, anything that keeps the chaos contained. But what if that darkness isn't here to destroy you? What if it holds the very parts of you that were once rejected? Not because they were evil, but because they were inconvenient. Anger, desire, rebellion, grief, all pushed underground until they started running your life from the shadows. This is the shadow Carl Jung spoke of, the unconscious self that shapes our decisions, our patterns, our relationships, not because it's malicious, but because it's been exiled. And what we exile, we cannot control, so it controls us. The more you try to be only light, the more you split. You create a false self to survive, and a hidden self that carries your truth. And every time you self-sabotage, every time you repeat the same pain, that hidden self is speaking, not to hurt you, but to be heard. Most people never get this far. They stay stuck in the illusion of self-improvement. They keep trimming the leaves instead of digging out the root. But you're already here. You're already seeing it. That your pain is intelligent. That your confusion has meaning. That your reactions are not weaknesses, but maps, clues to what was buried. And once you stop judging them, you can start listening. And when you listen, something changes. You stop trying to fix yourself and start reclaiming yourself, not as a project, but as a person, a whole, complex, powerful being who no longer needs to apologize for existing. Everyone talks about healing like it's a destination, like one day you'll wake up without fear, without shame, without pain, and finally be whole. But that idea itself is part of the trap, because healing isn't about feeling good. It's about becoming real. And real means messy. Real means grieving what you lost when you became who the world wanted. Real means sitting in the fire, not escaping it. Pain isn't your enemy. It's your compass. It shows you where your truth was buried. It shows you what still matters, what still hurts, what still wants to be seen. Most people try to numb it, escape it, rise above it. But until you walk through it, it owns you. The only way out is through the guilt, the rage, the tears you've held back for years. Not to drown in them, but to let them speak. And that's where power is born. Not from pretending to be fine, not from bypassing your story, but from facing it, holding it, letting it shape you without destroying you. This is not weakness. This is the deepest kind of strength. To remain open while everything inside you wants to shut down, to keep choosing presence over avoidance, to stay with yourself when no one else taught you how. Because real freedom isn't about changing what you feel, it's about no longer fearing it. And once you stop fearing yourself, you become impossible to control. So, what now? If the system was a lie, if the roles are collapsing, if the truth is darker and deeper than anyone warned you, what do you actually do with that? This is where most people get stuck. They wake up, they see through the illusion, but they don't know how to live outside of it. That's when the despair hits, because freedom without direction can feel like chaos, like walking into a vast empty space with no guide, no structure, no map. But that emptiness, it's not the end, it's the beginning. That blank space is sacred, because now you get to choose. You get to build from truth, not imitation. The first step is learning to be with yourself without distraction. Not the version of you others accept, not the identity that performs well under pressure. The real one, the one that's angry, the one that's lost, the one that doesn't know what comes next. Most people have never met that part of themselves because they've been too busy performing survival. But once you sit with it, without judgment, without fixing, something starts to shift. You begin to hear your own voice again, beneath the noise, beneath the fear. That's where the real work begins, not in chasing some perfect version of yourself, but in recovering the parts that were silenced, the child that was told to shut up, the teenager that was shamed for feeling too much, the adult who's been running on empty, pretending to be okay. All those versions of you are still here, still waiting. And the work isn't about deleting them. It's about welcoming them home. And yes, it's hard to do that alone. That's why you need others who are walking this path. People who aren't pretending anymore, who aren't trying to be impressive, who are done performing. That's what this space is for. A place to tell the truth, even when it's ugly, even when it's raw. A place where masks drop and something real begins. Because the deeper you go, the more you realize healing isn't about perfection. It's about connection to yourself and to others who've stopped hiding. This isn't a movement for everyone. Most people are still too attached to the mask, still trying to fix pain instead of listening to it. But if you've made it this far, maybe you're not most people. Maybe you're ready to stop seeking and start facing, to stop escaping and start integrating. That's what the 11th dimension really is. Not some new age fantasy, but a new level of honesty. And you don't get there by climbing up. You get there by digging down, into your body, into your story, into the parts you thought you had to erase just to be loved. So, what do you do now? Now that the veil is thinner, now that you've seen behind the curtain, now that you understand, the system was never broken, It was built to break you in ways you'd never notice. What's next? If going back is no longer an option, you don't need more theories. You need tools, not for healing some imaginary wound, but for staying awake in a world that profits from your sleep, for staying sovereign in a world built on obedience, for staying sane in a world that calls truth insanity. And if you're still here, if something in you is awake, then these tools aren't optional. They're essential. First tool, jurisdictional awareness. Understand this. Every system needs your consent, not just legally, but energetically. That means most of what binds you is only real if you agree it is. You don't need to fight the system. You need to stop feeding it. Every time you blindly sign something, accept a term, click agree without reading, respond to fear-based demands, you step deeper into their framework. Start asking, who benefits if I comply? What contract am I entering, even unconsciously? Read, pause, question. Start operating from clarity, not reaction. This is how you begin to exit, not through rebellion, but through refusal. Second tool, nervous system mastery. The Matrix doesn't control your thoughts. It controls your nervous system. It triggers you, overloads you, floods you with chaos until you beg for safety. Any safety. That's how fear keeps you compliant. But when you learn to regulate your body, you become unshakable. Breathe slower than your panic. Pause before reacting. When something external tries to hijack your peace, ask, whose fear is this? Is it even mine? Practice grounding every single day. Bare feet on the earth, ice water on your face, deep diaphragmatic breathing. This isn't self-care, it's survival. It's how you stop being programmable. Third tool, radical self-permission. The most dangerous thing you can be is someone who trusts their own inner authority, who doesn't need permission to feel, to know, to choose. That kind of person is unpredictable because they no longer respond to guilt, to shame, to pressure. And the system can't control what it can't guilt. Start practicing small acts of defiance, saying no when it's uncomfortable, telling the truth when silence is easier, resting when the world says grind. Each time you honor your inner signal, you take your power back, not in theory, in your body, in your choices, in your nervous system. These tools are not theories. They are weapons of clarity. They are shields against manipulation. And they will only work if you use them daily, especially when it's inconvenient, especially when everything around you demands that you collapse back into the role, because that role is what's dying, not you. You are what's emerging, raw, honest, awake. And if these words felt like yours, don't stay silent. Subscribe to the channel, not for me, for the others like you, still searching, still doubting, still thinking they're alone. The more of us speak, the more this message spreads. And don't forget to join the Telegram. That's where we go deeper. That's where we share what the surface can't handle. You'll find your reflection there. And if something inside you clicked, leave a comment. Not just to comment, to declare. To mark the moment where something shifted. Right? I accept my shadow. If you're ready to own every part of you. Right? My darkness is my power. If you're done pretending to be only light. Right? I take myself back. If you know it's time, let's see how many of us are done hiding. Let's see how many are ready to live with eyes open. Because this isn't the end. This is the edge of something massive, something irreversible. And you're already in it. The system is shaking. The masks are cracking. The old world is dying. And no one is coming to save you from it. But maybe you were never meant to be saved. Maybe you were meant to remember who you are. This is only the beginning.